Welcome to the Sportsadelphia podcast. My name is Cole, and this is my dad.
Ready to do this?
Yes.
Sportsadelphia, right?
Yeah.
All right. So is this going to be a weekly thing? Is it going to be twice a week? 3 times a week?
Twice
Are we
a week.
talking all Philadelphia sports? Are you doing
No.
more than that?
Not all Philadelphia sports.
No? What other sports are we doing? Are you doing? I mean, what other? I guess just whatever's hot at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to start with? So this is the first episode.
So first, we'll start with one of the biggest news. Pujols' 700th home run.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. All the stuff going on. You want to start with Pujols?
Yeah.
Let's start with Eagles.
Eagles.
Let's do Eagles first. What do you want to talk about with the Eagles? You want to start with their win?
Yeah.
All right, so they beat Washington 24-8, right?
Yeah.
Where should I begin with there? Is there a player or like something in general I should talk about? And then we'll do players?
The defensive line.
The defensive line. Well, there was all the complaints about the defensive line since they couldn't get to the quarterback unless they had help. Against Washington, they had, 9 sacks?
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's the most in the NFL in a game this season. And to give you a little bit more, Carson Wentz is terrible.
Yeah.
Whatever he was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he's not that anymore. And the Washington offensive line also stinks. So when you combine the two, it's a lot of bad football. But with Wentz, the problem is, like when you're the quarterback, when you hike the ball, when you have the ball hiked to you, when you drop back, it's 1-2, read, throw, or do something. Wentz drops back 1 second, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, and it makes it way too easy for opposing defenses to get around their offensive lineman and get to him. And nobody knows him better than the Eagles, and they made him look silly in this game. And the defense was great. I mean, they did their job up until it didn't matter late in the fourth quarter when he racked up some garbage yards.
So the next player I want to talk about is Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. How good he is?
Mm-hmm.
You like him?
He's doing well.
He's doing great. When we came into this year, I think I told you, we were sitting down watching the game, I didn't think he was the guy. He's good enough to be a quarterback, but if you want to win a Super Bowl, you need a great quarterback. And he's been great. I'd have to write it on a list, but he's probably top 10 in the NFL right now. Maybe you can just say top 7. He's been really good. And what he's able to do when he's comfortable, and he has a great offensive line and wide receivers who he trusts, this has been a breakout season. You can even, when the Eagles walked off the field after they won, they were chanting MVP to Jalen Hurts. It's only 3 games, but through 3 games, he's played like an MVP.
So the next thing I want to talk about is what would happen if Darius Slay was in the game.
Well, I mean, Darius Slay played. He played some of it. He got hurt, right?
Yeah.
For a little bit. I mean, they only gave up 8 points. And the 6 points, and they went for a 2-point conversion at the end. They had a safety, which was a bad decision by the Eagles. But, I mean, Darius Slay's been great. He's played like the player the Eagles they thought they were getting. Defense has been great, buddy. Look at what they've done to their opponents the last 2 weeks. They've held them next to nothing and kind of dominated and gave up some what's called garbage yards at the end, which is just, hey, we won this game. Let's let them eat clock, and we'll give them a little bit of room to work with. They're not perfect, the Eagles. The teams they played have flaws, but they look really good so far.
The next thing I want to ask you is, what do you think would happen? What do you think will happen when the Eagles play the Jaguars next week?
They play the Jaguars. Well, it's a homecoming, right? We went from Carson Wentz, and who would have been the MVP the Super Bowl season if he didn't get hurt, to now one of the Super Bowl winning head coach and everybody's probable favorite head coach in Eagles. Well, I shouldn't say in Eagles history, but in many, because they won a Super Bowl with him, right? I tell you what, I was really lucky to interview Doug Peterson a lot of times, whether I was on the WIP morning show or if I covered a practice and I got to ask a few questions. He is a great person. He's a really good head coach for a couple seasons, and maybe he'll do well with Jacksonville. But he's a great person. He's so easy to root for. And one of my favorite, and I hope he does really well with the Jags, except when he plays the Eagles. But the Eagles, you want to know who I think is going to win?
Yeah.
Eagles will win, I think, fairly handily. Jaguars are a good team, but the Eagles are a heck of a lot better. And to play at home, yeah, it'll be all Eagles. It should be another convincing victory. But our standards are getting pretty high, huh? Like we're expecting a blowout now.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your favorite player in Eagles? Do you have one?
Dallas Goedert.
Like Dallas Goedert? He
Yeah.
had a really good catch. Yeah? You like Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
Yeah? Think he's the guy? Maybe?
Maybe.
Gotta find out?
Yeah.
It's only 3 games so far. All right, what else you got?
So that's basically how much I want to talk about the Eagles today.
Mm-hmm. All right, hold on. How about this? Who do you think's going to be in the Super Bowl right now?
Super Bowl? Obviously the Bills.
Think the Bills?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dolphins beat the Bills.
We did?
Yeah, I think they did. Pretty sure they came back and beat them. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure the Dolphins came back and beat the Bills. There's some questions right now because of what happened. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, Miami came back. They beat the Bills. Miami's really good. And that's right. You still think it's the Bills? There's nothing wrong with that. Bills have Josh Allen's a great quarterback. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. Tua has been amazing. I think Josh Allen's the best. He's the strongest arm. So Bills and who? That's the AFC. Who's in the NFC?
NFC?
You going Eagles yet? Too early?
Not yet.
No, too early. Well, who's the favorite? I mean, you're not going to say Green Bay, right?
No.
Who else is there? You're going to say the Rams again since they won?
No, I'm not going to go with the Rams.
The Bucks? 45-year-old Brady? You may have to go Eagles.
Yeah, I'll go with Eagles right now.
Eagles Bills?
Yeah.
Bills Mafia against Eagles fans? That'd be fun. Or it'd be like a big schoolyard fight.
Yeah.
One or the other. All right, what else you got?
So, we're going to talk about now. Now, we're going to talk about Pujols' 700.
You want to go Pujols? You want to go Phillies and Pujols? You want to go straight Pujols?
Straight Pujols.
All right, 700 home runs. That is incredibly rare. You're lucky to be able to be around for that, to be able to watch the highlight, even if you see it live. We all know how rare it is for someone to have 700 home runs. So, before you were born, going back to 2006, that's when Ryan Howard had an amazing season, 58 home runs. At the time, everyone was watching Ryan Howard and Albert Pujols. Now you fast forward, how many years is that? 16 years ago? 16 years later, and Pujols is still hitting home runs and still in the league, and Ryan Howard's been out for how long? Goes to show you how amazing it is, how long he's been a great player. And with he and Howard, it was like 6 seasons in a row where it was Howard and Pujols, the 2 best home run hitters in all of Major League Baseball. And I remember, I think everybody remembers if you were alive in 2006, it became such a big deal with Ryan Howard, where no matter what you were doing, you wanted to know when Ryan Howard was going to be stepping to the plate. And let's say you were doing something, you were busy at work, but you knew Ryan Howard was the next batter up, and you were paying attention. You'd stop what you were doing, and you would listen to it on the radio, or you go to a TV because you wanted to see it because he was that good that year. It was a lot of fun. It's a shame. I mean, he had some great seasons, but that was the best season. But yeah, Pujols is. I mean, it's 700 home runs is only a few have done it, so he's one of the best ever.
That's like pretty much how much I was thinking. Just how do you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to another MLB thing.
Want to do Phillies?
Yeah, we'll do Phillies.
All right, do Phillies. So, all right, what about the Phillies you want to talk about? Like, do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Who they're going to play? Who should they play? What do you want to do?
Do you think they're going to make the playoffs?
I do think they're going to make the playoffs. They always make it difficult. I mean, in your couple years watching the Phillies, September is always a bummer. But they're going to end their playoff hiatus. They'll be back in the playoffs this year. It'll end 11 years. They haven't been there since 2011. And then comes who they're going to play, because it's a wild card series. So since they're going to be a wild card team, whether they're the third or the second, they're not going to be at home. It's a best of 3, so it's first team to win 2 games. And all 3 of those games, it goes to 3. If, one team wins a game, the other team wins another, then it's the third game decides it. It won't be at Citizens Bank Park. It'll be somewhere, whoever the Phillies are playing at their ballpark.
So who would you rather play? Would you rather have the Phillies play?
Well, you got a couple options, right? So because San Diego isn't playing all that great, even though they added a bunch of talent, you get a bunch of stuff to choose from, right? So you have, depends where you end up. If you end up with the second wild card, you're probably going to face either the Mets or the Braves. Oof. I guess you want to play the Braves, right? Because the Mets have had the Phillies number all season, but you play the Mets. It's quick and over with. You either lose to them and everybody expected you to lose, or if you beat them, you become the team nobody wants to play. Because the Phillies, who lost to the Mets all year, beat them in the playoffs. So whoever they would face in the division series, no one would want to play the Phillies. But if they're going to be in the third wild card, you're either going to, well, I mean, I was going to say you're either going to play Milwaukee or St. Louis, but you'll end up playing St. Louis, the Cardinals, which I guess it's better than playing the Braves.
Well, I prefer them to play the Braves because they have the Braves number all season.
It's sort of. Well, that last series in Atlanta, they beat up on the Phillies. Now, in this series, the Phillies are doing a lot better, but, maybe you're right. Maybe it's the Braves. But if they have the third wild card, they're probably going to face the Cardinals because the Brewers wouldn't get in. But we'll see what happens. There's still, so they, now that the homestand is done, the final homestand of the season, the last 10 games are all on the road. So it's not going to be easy. The final 3 are against the Astros, right, in Houston. But Houston's not going to have anything to play for. They'll play some guys just so they don't get rusty. So if it comes down to that, it looks good for the Phillies. They should be able to probably win all 3 of those games and get in. But then, we'll see what happens. But it'll be fun to have. Here's the cool part about playoff baseball. You never got to experience this. You were too young. Playoff baseball is different. Like, how it's been colder the last couple of days?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to the ballpark, you're going to one of the games. I know it won't be at Citizens Bank Park unless they win that series. But it's completely different. Suddenly it's colder out. And then you're like, all right, I have to get a sweatshirt and long pants and maybe a jacket and gloves and maybe even a hat because it's cold at night. And you get to the ballpark and everybody's super excited and you're shoulder to shoulder because every seat is filled up. And then when you're there, everybody lives and dies on every pitch. Doesn't matter what it is. Every single pitch, everybody cheers. It goes, oh, or gets mad or boos. And when your team scores or gets a hit, it can be so loud you can't hear a thing other than cheers. Like I could be right next to you and everybody's cheering. You would not hear a word I was saying. It's a lot of fun. You get goosebumps. But they have to get there first.
So if the Phillies make the playoffs, who do you think will perform the best?
Who will perform the best? Well, this is where you rely on the guys making the most money, right? That's why they get paid the most, because they're supposed to be the best. That's why you have Kyle Schwarber. He's won it all before. He's been there. So you need him. If he'll be leadoff. He's got to come through for you. Whether he gets on base, hits home runs, whatever he's got to do, he has to perform for you. Bryce Harper, it's your MVP, right? He's got to be an MVP. He's been in a terrible slump in September since he came back, but he's got to be the best player. So all the guys that make the money, and then I guess your pitchers will be. Let me see, Zach Wheeler, right?
Yeah.
Assuming he's good. Then you have Nola, and then probably Ranger Suarez, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess if it comes down to that game 3, and then if you win that, worry about that then. But you got to win that series first.
So that's the last thing that we're going to talk about the Phillies about. So next thing.
So hold on. So when you do these episodes, are we sometimes going to have like highlights?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it, like the good and the bad. About like guests. You have guests?
Yeah.
Like Phillies guests. Talk about like what they think about each game or a player and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So next thing we're going to talk about, staying in the MLB, is potential MLB playoff matchups currently.
Okay.
So currently it's going to be in the AL. It's going to be first seed Yankees versus second seed Astros.
Well, it won't.
No, first seed Astros, second seed Yankees.
Well, it all depends what's going to happen. I mean, everything's going to be a little bit different though, because the way we'll see what happens. I don't know how it's going to work yet. We have to look at the different matchups, but let's assume at some point the Yankees play the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, that's a tough one, right? That'll end up deciding who's going to be in the World Series for me, depending on how the seeding plays out and who wins what. That's who I think is going to be in the World Series, either the Yankees or the Astros.
Well, for this series, I'm picking the Astros because I think they're gonna beat them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a close series.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens because remember, trying to remember the layout. So the first for the wild card round, it's the 3 seed, which is the worst division winner, against the third wild card, right? And then the first and second, right? First and second wild card face each other. Am I getting that wrong? That's what it is, right? First and second wild card. Yeah, yeah. And then the division winner, the worst division winner against the third wild card team.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. Yeah.
So the worst division winner and third and wild card is the Rays, and the worst division winner is the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think would win that match?
The Rays.
The Rays,
Yeah.
I think
Guardians are good, but they're not that good.
So for the wild card matchup with the 2 wild card teams, we have the Blue Jays versus the Mariners.
Well, everybody's rooting for the Mariners, right? They had the so you know who has the longest playoff droughts in baseball?
Mariners.
Mariners and the Phillies. Mariners, it's 20 some years, 21. I always forget the number. So they have the longest drought in all of baseball. And then the Phillies, at 11 years, they have the longest drought in the National League. So to see both of those kids come to an end, of course you root for the underdog. And the Mariners, even though they're really good, would still be the underdog. I'd go Mariners.
Me too. So now we're going to the NL. It's the top division winners. It's the Dodgers versus the Mets.
Well, okay. Is that how the seeding works though?
Yeah.
Like what happens if, let's say the Phillies get in as the third wild card and they win that round? Don't they get the 1 seed?
1 seed for what?
Would they get the top team, the Dodgers? Or would it be, is there reseeding? I always forget. It's amazing because it's been so long you don't pay that close attention. We'll double check. We'll come back to it.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about, so we're going to go to the top place from week 2.
The top plays?
Yeah, we're going to play 10, 5, 3, and 1.
Okay. Are we doing like all sports or just Philadelphia?
Do whole NFL.
The whole NFL?
Like out of week 2.
Well, why don't we save that for next week? We got to sit down, put it together, figure out the best plays from week 10 or week 2, and because there's so much to go through. Remember, there's 32 teams. It's a lot. How about here's something though? Are we like when we do? Are we gonna do breakdowns of certain players?
Yeah.
We'll bring out their stat line, what they did, and break it all down, stuff like that.
Yeah, like in the NFL, like after like a game or 2, we'll just start doing it.
Okay. We gonna do Sixers?
Yeah.
They start training camp in a few days. It's on the road. It's away from home. Want to get away from everybody. Training camp.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna be good this year. I don't know if they'll be good enough. They're better than they were last year. That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm. So next, we're going to talk about the Celtics head coach getting suspended.
You want to talk about that? Do you know what that's about?
No.
So the head coach's name is Ime Udoka.
Mm-hmm.
He was an assistant for the Sixers. He was on the Sixers coaching staff. And he got hired there, and they went to the NBA Finals in his first season. But one of the rules, when you are a coach or someone above that, general manager or president, you have to sign on a piece of paper that you can't, how do I put this? You can't go out with someone who works in the organization. So long story short, Ime Udoka met a woman who works for the Celtics, and he started dating her. Can't do that. It's a big no-no. There's more to it than that, but because they found out about it, and he knew, and there's more details. It's immediate suspension. It's a question of how long it is, but they're suspending him for the whole year. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're hoping he'll quit, but that's a long time, and it's unfortunate for them. But I don't care because it's the Celtics.
How do you think that the Celtics will perform?
Hopefully, terrible. They'll still be good, but hopefully not as good because we need They were very impressive in that one season under Udoka. But we'll see how the Sixers do this year. The Sixers control their own destiny, but they can be, I should say destiny, fate. If James Harden, skinny James Harden, is really good and he can stay healthy and he can do what he's been known to do throughout his career, with the exception of I guess the second half or the playoffs of this past season and a couple other times. If he can keep his hamstrings healthy, they'll be really good in the playoffs, but there's going to be one bummer though. He's going to have a lot of games off in the season. Embiid's going to have a lot of games off. So it's going to be Tyrese Maxey trying to carry everybody while they take games off so that way they make sure they're healthy in the playoffs.
How do you think Tyrese Maxey will do this upcoming season?
Boy, hopefully great. He's a workaholic. Throughout all summer, he was in the Sixers gym working out, and he's doing stuff in Los Angeles, and he loves the game. That's the most important part. That's what I try to tell you when you play baseball and all. There's different kinds of people. It's just like any job. So there's the people that say, all right, here's my job. I go here, I do my job, I come home, day's over, right? When you can become, but the difference between someone who just goes to their job and someone who is great and gets better and gets promoted and becomes the best, there are things that are mixed in there that you can't control, but the thing you can control is how hard you work and how much you care, how much time you put in. So, like I tell you all the time, like when you were little, I wasn't home a lot because I was working 16 hours a day. I was doing stuff at the station during the day. I was covering games at night. I'd come home for an hour during the day and give you guys a hug and eat something real quick, get a shower, and boom, I was gone again. The same thing with Maxie. You can be a regular player and do well and make a few dollars, but if you want to be the best and you think you have the talent, it's almost like you're obsessed. Like you look at film of yourself and what do you have to do better and what do you have to practice on. And when you do that and you spend a lot of time in it, you're going to get better. And then when you have the right coaches that'll help you and can point out what you need to work on, and you combine that because he's an athlete, what he eats, what he drinks, you can be a great player. And maybe as important, he loves doing it. He doesn't say, oh, I don't want to go to work today. He loves doing it. That's the most important thing. If you love it and put in that extra time and you're able to look at what you do and say, I need to get better here, here, and here, then you'll become the best. It's when you sit there and you say, oh, this is it. This is the way that it is. Well, then you're not going to do anything. You got to work on it. So he's going to have a good season. Hopefully a great season, but we'll see.
Do you think he'll be good enough to make like an all-star team?
That's the tough one. Depending on what happens, see, Tobias, the All-Star game's tough because there's a fan vote, player vote, coaches vote, and sometimes it's a popularity contest more than it is stats. And then sometimes stats can be deceiving, like Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a really good guy. He does a lot of charities, and he does work hard, but he's good. He's not great. But if he can average 20 points per game, and let's say Tyrese Maxey is amazing, but he's only averaging 18 points a game, sometimes people who vote will look at the stats and just say, oh, look, 20 versus 18, Tyrese shouldn't be in there. But that's not always the case, but making an NBA All-Star game is tough. But remember, one thing that you learn, it's not the end-all, be-all. If you're not an All-Star, nobody cares. It's no big deal. It adds to your resume. Like you say, look, I was a 5-time All-Star. All right, well, how many rings do you have? None. Ask Russell Westbrook about that. He's been a great player for a long time, 0 championships, because he's not a great team player and he's a ball hog. So, at a certain point, like Joel Embiid's going to learn this. Joel Embiid is about to enter what's called his prime. It's like your best years where you're right at the point in your career. It's usually like 27, 28, 29, where you're the best you're going to be physically. And something that Joel's got to learn. If you remember watching last season, whenever he would talk, he'd say, oh, I want to win MVP. All right, he wanted to be the MVP of the league. And he was a finalist, and Jokic obviously won it again. And he was all bent out of shape, moping around the next playoff game because he was upset about it. Well, hopefully now he has learned. He won the scoring title. Hopefully now he has learned that you're judged by championships. And Jokic is going to win multiple MVPs. He's an amazing player. But I don't think if he stays where he's at, he'll never win a championship. And and when he retires, he'll say, great, I have all these awards on my shelf, but what's that mean? I never won a title. So if Embiid learns that, and he focuses on that alone, Sixers can go really far.
Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do some quick questions. So I
All
want to
right.
ask you some
What are they?
random
Are they about me or about sports or what?
sports and you.
And me?
Yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right.
ask you questions. You're gonna answer them.
All right.
So first, I want to know what's your favorite
Should I
Eagles.
what? Should I dress nicer next time? Not wear a t-shirt. Should I put on a suit?
No,
Can I eat while I'm talking?
no,
Can I bring in a big drink?
no.
All right.
So my first question is, who's your favorite player on the Eagles?
My favorite player on the Eagles. Boy, that's a tough one. See, when you do what I've done for a long time, you don't look at it the same way. So you don't have a favorite player anymore. You just kind of look at everybody and hope they do well. But it's hard to, because part of my job is to criticize too. Um, Boy, that's a tough one. My favorite player on the Eagles. Well, it's Kelsey. No, it's Kelsey. I shouldn't have had to think that long. It's Jason Kelsey. Of course, it's Kelsey. And I got to know Kelsey pretty well too, spending a couple hours with him, and he sat in with me on the morning show and a couple other WIP events, and hopefully one day he'll work with me more often at WIP when he retires. But Jason Kelsey, yeah, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. One of the greatest centers ever, greatest center in Eagles history. He won the Super Bowl. And you remember that Super Bowl speech he had, the mummer's outfit? Yeah, that's Jason Kelsey.
So I was thinking of a question, but I forgot about it.
Is it like about work or
I'm thinking.
about like covering
Okay,
teams, that kind of
who
thing?
do you think will be one of the hardest teams that Eagles will face this
Well,
season?
one of the hardest teams they'll face this season. They do have an easy schedule. It's the second easiest schedule in the whole league. Washington stinks. Dallas, it's going to be Dallas. It'll always be Dallas. Because as much as we like to make fun of the Cowboys and Dak Prescott being hurt and Cooper Rush being adequate, Dallas has always given the Eagles a hard time. And there's only a handful of seasons where it was very one-sided in the Eagles' favor. So whether it's at Dallas or in Philly, it's the Cowboys. I was going to say the Giants, but no, it's not Daniel Jones. And Saquon Barkley's great and all, and they're off to a great start, but it's the Cowboys.
Okay.
Do you hate the Cowboys?
Yes, I hate them.
That's good.
Absolutely
All
hate
right, just want to
them.
make sure. I was going to punish you if you said no.
So my next question is, what's your favorite thing about your job?
My favorite thing. I get paid to talk about sports. It's simple as that. Now, there's some bad parts to it, but in the end, sometimes, and I say the same thing to people I work with, because sometimes they get too full of themselves. If you know what that means. You have to remind them, listen, you could be working a 9 to 5 job somewhere. You work super hard to get to where you're at, and it's difficult to stay there. You got to remind yourself, I talk sports for a living. Only a few people in the world get to do that. I should be grateful for that. And that's why, like when you see me prepping for work, whether I'm doing the morning show or my overnight show, I'm always spending like 2 hours sitting in front of the computer. Because I remind myself, listen, how many years did I fix houses, and paint, and build things? And that was tough. My knees would hurt. My back would hurt. Everything would hurt. I breathe in all kinds of dust. That's terrible for you. And when I finally get that opportunity to do shows, I used to work in the middle of the night, then go to school during the day, and then get jobs here and get jobs there, and little tiny radio jobs that paid no money at all, just because I wanted to build my, you know what a resume is? It's something you put together of all the different places you've worked at, and it's supposed to help you get another job. Sometimes it works. Anyway, um, because where I work, it's one of the top radio stations in the country for sports. People don't go there and then leave to go somewhere else. They go there and they stay there until they're forced out. I have to remind myself of that. That's why every night when you see me sitting there in front of the computer for 2 hours, I'm thinking of stuff, I'm taking notes. I want every show to be the best one. There's no lazy shows. When you do a lazy show, you shouldn't be doing it anymore.
Okay, my next question is, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite Phillies player?
Phillies player?
Yeah.
Oh boy. It's difficult. A lot of the guys, when I covered the team, I used to be there all the time, every night. it's you get to know some of them. It's changed a little bit since I've done it. It's been a couple years now since I've been there all the time. I mean, it's still, it's probably still Harper because you know what it is. Even though he makes mistakes at times and he goes into slumps like he is in September, he cares. It's not fake. He always wants to win. And sometimes he can be overly aggressive because he tries so hard and he gets caught stealing bases or trying to get turned into a double that was a single, but he cares. So it's probably Harper. I'd have to look at the roster from top to bottom because there's some really good guys in that team. But it's definitely Harper.
So next,
Who's yours?
JT Realmuto.
Realmuto, huh? Why? Anything about him you like?
But he's a catcher, and I really like him.
Okay. I guess that's a good answer.
So another thing I want to talk about is
Where'd you get all these bobbleheads, by the way?
from
You have like 3 dozen bobbleheads here. Where'd you get them?
from Phillies and sometimes from you.
Oh, okay. Sometimes? How about all but 3?
All but 3.
Thank you. That sounds right.
Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is Harper's slump. How long do you think it's gonna last, and when do you think it's gonna end?
Well, he was the MVP, so you're expecting him to get out of it. So you're expecting him to do it now. When you make the money he's making, those are the expectations. It's not, well, give him time. No, you're the MVP. You make a lot of money. Make it happen. He'll get out of it. You just hope it doesn't extend until, if they start losing games again in the stretch. He's not the reason they end up falling short of the playoffs. Remember last year, it was in the middle of September, they played the Braves. Big series. Harper was terrible. But, again, that's the tough part about baseball. You play baseball all the time. You play on teams. You get stuck in your own head. You're afraid to make mistakes at the plate. Should I swing at this pitch? Should I not swing at this pitch? It's the same with Harper. He may be making a heck of a lot of money, and everybody watches him on TV and has his jersey. Same thing. You can overthink. The ball could come right down the middle, and you're saying, "No, don't swing. It's going to sink. It's going to fall." And then it goes right down the middle, and you strike out. Same thing.
So another thing I want to talk about is another home run hitter, Aaron Judge. How much home runs do you think he'll have by the end of the season?
You still at 60? You have more than 60? He's got to be at 60, right? Unless he hit 61 today, but I didn't see it. All that Eagle stuff, I just glanced through it. I'm going to say 64.
64?
And if he hits 64, see, here's the tough thing. Again, before you were born, McGwire and Sosa, one for another, trading home runs. McGwire ended up hitting 70 home runs. Sosa finished with 66. I can't remember. But they both broke the home run record held by a player by the name of Roger Maris. He had 61 home runs. He broke Babe Ruth's record. And that's been the record for a long time. But when we found out that McGwire and Sosa were taking steroids, more or less, or accused of it, and everybody knew it, and you look at it differently. Like, well, they cheated. It's not the same. They took stuff to make their muscles bigger. So, of course, they could hit a ball harder. And then Barry Bonds broke McGwire's record. He had 75. Same thing. People have long suspected that he cheated too. And I believe he cheated too. But baseball's tough because so many cheated for so long using stuff like that, well before them. But they didn't care at the time. And then they started testing and people got caught. And then they got accused of lying. But now they test them all the time. So you get caught with anything, you're suspended right away. So in that case, if Aaron Judge hits 62 home runs, for me, he'd be the real home run king. So he would have the all-time record. And then I think he'll finish with 64.
Next question is...
How many questions are there? Go ahead. What's my favorite food?
Who do you think will be in the World Series?
Boy. Boy, oh boy. I want to say the Mets, but I won't do it because I refuse to hurt myself. I'm going to go... Seems too easy to say Dodgers, right? They're so darn good. I guess I'm going to have to go Dodgers and... see, Dodgers Astros seems so easy. Let's go Dodgers Yankees to break it up.
Dodgers Yankees?
Yeah.
Who do you think would
break
win?
it up like the Yankees have been there 100 times. Go ahead. What?
And who do you think would win?
The Dodgers.
Dodgers?
Yeah.
Okay, who do you think will
I'm hoping neither are there, but I think the Dodgers.
Who do you think will be in the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl. I do like the Bills, like you said earlier. I think the Bills are going to be the team in the AFC. I like them a lot. I'm rooting for. It's a shame for that fan base. So much failure for so long, and then they had those 4 years where they went there and lost to the Cowboys twice, Washington, New York. It's going to be the Bills. God, do I really want to say Eagles after 3 games? Let's go Eagles.
Bills and Eagles?
We could say this in 3 weeks, and I'd say, I never said it. It wasn't Eagles. They lose 3 in a row. But right now, I got to go Eagles. They look great.
Okay, that's basically everything.
Okay.
So,
are we going to have, so when we have these guests, can we, grill them if we don't like their answer?
yes.
If the Phillies win and they complain about something they didn't do right, you can say, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
Can we do that?
if you
we invited you on here.
Well,
No, can't do that? It's too much? You can't yell at them. All right. Can we, are we going to have this cool musical intro all the time?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Sportsadelphia podcast. Something like that? Should I get someone at work, ask them if they could do something, like a favor for me?
Yeah.
All right. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are we going to have rolling credits at the end? Like a newscast?
No.
Like executive producer, Cole Johnson, Cole Johnson joint at the end. Approved by Dad, something like that. So am I on every episode?
Yes.
All right. Can I wear a hat sometimes?
Wow.
Should I wear something nicer, a button up? If I wore a tuxedo,
No.
tuxedo?
No.
Classy podcast?
No.
No. All right. We done then?
Yes, that's basically everything I have for today.
All right. Cole Johnson, episode 1 of the Sportsadelphia podcast. Right?
Yeah.
All
Thanks for watching this Sportsadelphia podcast.
God.